Alright, so I'm going to quickly introduce Biomorpher to y'all, then jump into the definition that I've created, and then go back into details about Biomorpher. So, for now I'm not really explaining it, but just showing you kind of what it's up to. You can see the designs. I had the original form, and it's created a lot of pretty cool variations on that form. Wow. Alright, so we're going to X this out, and if you already have your own definition that you want to plug into Biomorpher, that's totally fine, and you're welcome to skip ahead to where I actually go into Biomorpher, but for now I'm just going to explain how I created this definition. So, let me first just turn this off so it's not in the way. And now I want to basically recreate this definition. So I'm going to be creating this polygonal prism, and we just want number sliders for all of these inputs. And so for the radius, let's go for 30. And we can plug that in, and then alright, we've got all of that information, and now we're going to loft it. Oh, sorry, we need to move it first. So we need at least two to loft, so we need to move it. We've got one there, but I want to edit the height and how far above the original it is, so let me put in a number slider. And then I'm also gonna make sure that it's moving unit Z in the upward direction. So now it's a bit higher, as you can see to the left, and we can actually loft it this time. And make sure to grab your original curve and hit shift as you're inputting it so it doesn't cancel out the other. And then we can get this handy dandy twist node, and remember, if you want to see where that is in the menu, you can Control-Alt-Click, and it's really obvious and it points it out for you. Alright, so we're going to plug the loft into geometry, and we still need some other inputs here. So for the axis, you can totally create your own line, but we're going to do something a little bit more complicated that hopefully will be interesting later on. So I'm going to grab this random node and give it a range of 10, and actually just copy that number slider because I want the seed to be 10 as well. Giving it some more space, and then for the number we have to have 3 because basically the output of this random node is going to be 3 random numbers, and we want to turn those into points. So we're going to go from numbers to points, and we have this nice node right here. So let's plug that in. Now we have basically a point coming out of these 3 random numbers. So let's get a line and use this as the start. And so it's nice, you can, adjust the seed and see if this is selected and if this is in view on the left hand side of the screen. When you adjust these, you can see it flickering around inside the parameters, so that line is going to be variable. So let's plug that into the axis, but we still need the angle of the twist, and we're just going to use a number slider for that. So I'm good with 8. So that's twisting it a lot already. Let me make sure that this is hidden so it's not in the way. And then we can also turn that down because that doesn't look that good right now. Another thing we can do is make sure the height is as high as I want it to be. And I also want to give this length. So I'm gonna go for 50 right now. Nice, so that is just like where the twist is going up to. So if we bring it up to 100, it'll go along the whole thing, but if we bring it down, it's only twisting, you know, lower than 11, I guess, or at 11. But let's have it at 100 to start with, and we can also affect how many times it's twisting. And if you want to have it be by angle, you can right click and set it to degrees, and that's going to give you, you know, more accurate radial degrees, but I don't want that, so I'm just going to have it be by, like, number of rotations. And now we just got to turn this into a mesh, and we'll be good to go into Biomorpher. So, let me bring down this mesh surface. We're going to plug that geometry into the surface and give ourselves a U count and a V count. And let me just note that Biomorpher doesn't read anything that's not a mesh. So whatever kind of surface you have, if you're not already working in a mesh, it's vital that you make sure to transform that into mesh before you go into Biomorpher. So let me bring out Biomorpher, and it should be, actually, you can get it from the menu, but it's under params, under util, and we can just plug mesh into where it says meshes. Okay, so for the genome basically just wants to take all of the parameters that you have, and that's any parameter that you input is one that's going to be adjusted, potentially adjusted. So I want the U count and V count to be adjusted. Alright, and pretty much I'm plugging in all of the parameters I've just made. I think Biomorpher, you know, is generally more interesting if you have a lot of parameters, and not only more interesting, but more worthwhile. You know, if you only have parameters for height and width, it's not really going to be worth your time to change it into a mesh and put it in Biomorpher. But I think with this amount, it should have some interesting results. The one note I want to make is that with 3, that inputs into the random node, you don't want to change that, because if you make it any higher or lower, it totally messes up the definition, and you can see that that immediately turns red. It's got to have 3 numbers, because 3 numbers make up a point in 3D space. So, we are good to launch Biomorpher, so I can double click to launch. And so we don't really have any info yet, or there's just a blank screen, but let me pump up the population size to about above 100. And I'm just going to go from random, going from current. It seems to go from the current, place you're at within all the parameters, but I want to just have it go from random. So you can see it flickering through all the designs on the left in Rhino, and what it's given us now is basically this visual map of all the design iterations it just made. So all of these points, all of these little dots are one design iteration, and if you count all of those, it should add up to whatever your initial population size was. Now, it groups these, I believe, by similarity. So, you know, in 0 and square 0, all of these have, you know, different, they're actually all different forms, but in some way or other they're similar, and so it just groups them and creates an average, which is the white dot in the middle. And so we don't, when we set it to 100, we don't actually get to see all the different design iteration. We just see the average of groups of them. So let's go to designs. And so, yeah, we see this these variations here. And so what we didn't do before is to make sure our parameters in whatever place they're in on their number slider are going to give us an actual form. So a couple things have happened here, I think. But we basically need to make sure that, like, for example, the height is set so it can never go to 0. So there's always a height, because I want all of the designs to be displayed. So same with the radius. You know, I'm just going to set a minimum of 5 on that one. And I also want to set a minimum here. And then the segments, you also got to make sure that we have a minimum of 3. Or else it's not going to be a real form. And then same with some of these other ones, I want to make sure that we're not going below, well, let's just say 10 for that. And then same with this, let's make sure that we are not going below, I'll just say 10 again. And for that, I don't like it when it gets too low, so I'm just going to set both of these to so that they can't go below 20. Alright, and so now we're good to go back into Biomorpher, and this time, I'll crank it up, it should give us a few more results that we can actually see. So let's go straight to designs. Yeah, so now all of these are visible. You know, and I don't like all of these, but we're just exploring right now. I do particularly like number 10, kind of the softer, filleted one with not too many twists. And I kind of like 7 and 11. So we can click evolve. And it's taking it just a second. But yeah, now we have a second generation, basically, of forms that are more similar to the ones that I clicked. And we can do this, you can just keep doing this into infinity, but I'm just going to do it with one. I like this, I like how that looks, it looks clean. And evolve that again. And so now we've ended up with a lot of very similar forms. In fact, I don't know if there's any difference in the ones in the bottom row at all. But if it's kind of minuscule. So now we've kind of evolved ourselves to where there's not a lot of variety. So there's a few solutions to this. You can go ahead and you can alter the mutation rate. I can crank this way up, and that just is like how quickly the forms will mutate, like within how many generations. And so even if we just select 1 this time, I think we should end up with a bit more variety because of that height and mutation rate. Yeah, so we have a little bit more variety, and you know, you could even increase that more by cranking up that mutation rate. What else you can do is there's history, and it's nice that, you know, when you have a lot of this, you can save it as a PNG. But you can also reinstate each version, each generation. So if I want to go back to start, I can hit reinstate, and once it's finished, we can, it's just taking it a second, but we can go to designs, and we are back, I believe, to yeah, I think to the ones that we started out with. And then also whichever ones you selected, you can, will display here which ones you selected to evolve, and so you can double click that one, and that's what will show up in, that's what it'll set the parameters to in Grasshopper, and of course show up as in Rhino. Okay, so the plot, I don't really know about the plot. I've seen images when looking at Biomorpher of the plot, but I haven't really figured out how to do this. But I've pretty much given you most of the information about Biomorpher. There's a little bit more to explore here, but this is most of the info and a good jumping off point. I think the one other comment that I do want to make is if you are attached to however your parameters are when you start Biomorpher, I might make a copy of your definition or just note that what your parameters are, because I've had trouble, like it'll usually change it even if I'm not trying to, and there might be a workaround for that, but it just will always come out with different parameters, even if I didn't think I selected one. So that's all, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you for watching.